button. All right, so I'm going to talk for a second. This should be streaming on Facebook, and I'm going to give a quick intro. Hi, everybody. This is Vaughn Jadarian. I'm the chair of the Oakland County Dems, and today we have another one of our recurring speaker series, but this one is probably the most special one that we've done all year. With us tonight is Senator Gary Peters from right here in Oakland County. Gary is just an incredible friend of the Oakland County Dems, and I'm very excited to have him here with us tonight for a quick conversation. So Senator Peters, I guess this is going to sound a little silly, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Vaughn. Thank you for hosting this. And first off, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for building the Oakland County Democratic Party. You know, this is Colleen and I, this is our home county. We were both born and raised here in Oakland County. So it's great to be with so many Democrats from all across Oakland. I was born in Pontiac, raised in the Rochester area. Colleen was raised in the Waterford area. And we've lived our whole life here in Oakland County. I've raised 3 children here as well. I've had the privilege of serving in the city council in Rochester Hills, as well as serving Oakland County as a state senator for a number of years before being elected to the U.S. House of Representatives and now the United States Senate. I spent most of my life, or a big chunk of it, over 20 years in the private sector in business. I was a financial advisor with 2 major financial services firms, ran offices, was a VP with those firms, and worked in private business, but also believed in giving back. And giving back, I've done a couple ways. I've served in the U.S. Navy Reserve. Thought that it was important to give back to my country and through military service and be ready to defend these amazing freedoms that we enjoy in our country. I rose to the rank of lieutenant commander, but also believed in serving in government and public policy. It's why I was on, as I mentioned, the Rochester Hills City Council, then represented a district in the state Senate that basically ran from Pontiac down through Bloomfield, down kind of the Telegraph Woodward corridor into Southfield and Royal Oak Township, Berkeley, Oak Park, those areas, and then was elected. After doing that, I served briefly with the Granholm administration, and then was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in the 9th District. So I guess you could say DNA, or in my DNA, is public service, whether it was military service or service in capacity as an elected official. But now in my first Senate term, I'm a freshman in the Senate. And those who all know me here in Oakland County, probably everybody on the Facebook here, we've had a chance to interact, and I've been honored and certainly really appreciate all of the support I've received from Democrats all across Oakland County in those years. And we're in a big race right now. As you know, the Senate race here is a very high profile. We are in a battleground state that we must win, both the presidency as well as the Senate. I think it's safe to say it's impossible to be president of the United States if you don't win Michigan. That's just where our state is now in the Electoral College, which is why we're getting certainly attention from the candidates. I think it's also no question that we have to elect Joe Biden. And I'll just put out one area that I've certainly been up close with the Trump administration, and that's in the work in dealing with this COVID crisis. I serve as the ranking Democrat, means I'm the top Democrat on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. Part of that responsibility is overseeing the Department of Homeland Security, which includes FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management folks responsible for dealing with this crisis. And I can tell you, it has been clear that the Trump administration was very slow. We know the president downplayed the virus, although now it appears that even though he knew, he continued to downplay it. Our reaction time was not what it should have been, despite us pounding on the table and trying to figure out why the administration wasn't engaged in a very aggressive testing regime, for example. You know, when you think about where we are today relative to the rest of the world, look at our response versus other countries. And the example that I'll give is South Korea. South Korea had their first COVID case roughly the same day, within a day of when we had it here in the United States. But they pursued it aggressively. They made sure they had testing, contact tracing, all of the things that you deal with once you see that a virus is in the community. That did not happen from the Trump administration. We've continued to see missteps. In fact, what was incredibly frustrating was, especially here in Michigan, when we were a hot spot very early, and we were there with New York and New Jersey, and we were experiencing significant cases. Our hospitals were beginning to overflow. Our professionals or medical professionals that were on the front line couldn't get basic supplies like face masks to have the surgical masks, the N95s necessary, the testing equipment. It was clear that President Trump and his folks at FEMA were not dealing with this as a national emergency, and there were clearly missteps that we are now paying the price for. We're still in this crisis to a degree that other countries are not, because they stepped up and were much more aggressive. And unfortunately, we're paying the price. So we need new leadership. We certainly need Joe Biden to take the reins of the federal government. And certainly I look forward to working closely with the Biden administration. But I'll also say, I think everybody on the call realizes that having a majority in the Senate in some ways is even more important than the presidency. And because right now we have Mitch McConnell that basically blocks things. Right now, Mitch McConnell has been the major block in meaningful COVID assistance, additional assistance, which is necessary. Although we heard today Donald Trump doesn't want to negotiate anymore. So apparently Donald Trump also does not believe that additional aid is necessary. I'm incredibly disappointed by that. I would hope that we could come together in a bipartisan way. We did that in the CARES Act. We came together understanding the national emergency before us. But that is not happening with the Trump administration or with Mitch McConnell. Instead, they're just forcing through a Supreme Court nominee that should wait. We should be focused on dealing with this crisis first off. But instead, they're trying to push through a nominee, even though people are voting. Right now in Michigan, we know already hundreds of thousands of people have already voted in our state. I strongly believe that people of the state of Michigan and the country should have a say in who would nominate the Supreme Court nominee. And the Senate to confirm it. We've never put forward a Supreme Court nominee during an election year in the history of this country past July. And when you think about just 40 days out when Justice Ginsburg passed, there's only been one time that's been sooner, and that was 30 days, about the same time as Justice Ginsburg passed. And but that was back when Abraham Lincoln was the president. And Abraham Lincoln said, I do not think it's appropriate to put a nominee forward 30 days before election. The people of this country should make a decision. And of course, that was Abraham Lincoln. He's a gentleman who has a monument in Washington, D.C., and he's on Mount Rushmore. Clearly, he's about as far as you can possibly get from Donald Trump. Yeah. But it shows what a statesperson can do. So that's what is dominating us right now here in the Senate. But I know there are questions out there, Vaughn, so I'd love to take questions from folks. And just again, thank you to Oakland County Democrats. And clearly, we know Oakland County is critical in this election. We have to turn out Democrats all throughout the county. And we know when we do that, and we know how to do that because I've been involved in Oakland County politics for a long time. We know how to turn people out. And when we turn people out, we win. So I'm looking forward to this election.
I won't mention any of the pictures that we have of you at Oakland County Democratic Party events from back in the day. I won't bring those out on this live stream. Maybe some future stream.
That sounds
but
great.
I did want to springboard off of something that you said just a second ago, and that was talking about sort of the fact that people are already voting. In Michigan, this year for the first year, we have no reason absentee voting, and we've had to make a shift in the past 5 or 6 months from telling people, get your ballot, mail it in, et cetera, to now telling people, get your ballot, but then take it back and drop it off at the clerk's office, at your clerk's office. Largely because now we're all worried about problems with the Postal Service, delays that are happening that are frankly being caused by the Trump administration. So can you talk a little bit about work that you've done to help protect the Postal Service and help make sure that we're not going to have those problems as we face this election?
Absolutely, Vaughn. And certainly we did face a real challenge in the summer with a new Postmaster General that was put in place whose major qualification for the job is that he's a major donor to Republicans, a major bundler for President Trump. And when he came in, he instituted a number of new policies that quite frankly had the impact of slowing down the mail. It was clear. It was about mid-July. I serve on the committee that oversees the Postal Service as well. It's that Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. And it came to my attention in mid-July from folks all across the state of Michigan that started contacting my office and saying, why is the mail being delayed? And, I'll be frank, it's not unusual to get folks concerned about mail delivery. That happens on a regular basis. But there was just a huge surge all over the state of folks saying, what is going on? And some terrible stories, particularly when it comes to the delivery of critical prescription medicine. So I went to the experts, which are the men and women who work every day in the Postal Service. And I want to be clear, the men and women who care deeply about delivering the mail on time. Those are our letter carriers, our mail handlers, the postal workers that go to work every single day. They take great pride in making sure the mail gets out quickly. They were telling me these new policies are being put in place that are slowing down the mail. That they saw a change in the past where they really took it seriously. If there was a pile of mail and sitting in the post office or in the processing center, you get it out every day. But they started being told by management, hey, don't worry about it. You can get to it the next day. And of course, it just continues to pile up. And the stories that I heard, I mean, I remember many stories, but one in particular of a mom who talked about her daughter who needs medicine because she suffers from epileptic seizures. And normally it takes 3 days for her to get the mail, but the mail didn't come. The medicine didn't come. It didn't come. It took 9 days for her to get it. And unfortunately, her daughter was very scared and wasn't sure she would get the medicine and started to reduce her dosage. And we know that's not a good thing. And she suffered a seizure and was hospitalized. So mail delivery, clearly, you mentioned the election. There's no question how important that is. But the mail delivery every single day is important to deliver it on time. People rely on it. It's a service. It's the only delivery service that goes to every single address. So we went to work. I called in the Postmaster General. We had hearings. We pushed back. I'm really, really proud of the overwhelming public response that forced this Postmaster General to rescind those policies. He's at least put them on hold until after the election. I believe he needs to do it after the pandemic. You shouldn't be doing this just through the election, as important as that is when I talk about critical medicines. But quite frankly, I don't fully trust that. That's why I've been working closely with the Inspector General to make sure we have oversight every day. So far, we are seeing delivery times are speeding up, which is good. We still have a ways to go. But I would certainly, to your point, I think folks now, if you want to drop it back in the mail, we're a month out. That's okay. But when you get within a couple of weeks of election, there's no question. And I'm confident our postal carriers and letter carriers will do their best job. But just to play it safe, 2 weeks out, definitely take it to your clerk. And there are a number of drop boxes all across Oakland County too. Then when you drop that in the box, you know for sure the clerk has had it. But I would request those ballots now. If you haven't requested an absentee ballot, people need to do it now. Get it and mail it as quickly as you feel comfortable doing it, or to be absolutely certain, put it in a drop box.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been telling people as well. And I think that's generally good advice. I wanted to ask something. I heard you tell a story a few years ago about when you were elected. You were the only Democratic senator that was elected that year. And so you came in as sort of like a freshman caucus of one. And I think that it really, I would say, gave you the ability to learn how to work with your colleagues across the aisle. And we're in a moment of transition right now. We're really hopeful that we're going to have a President Biden after this election. And should we have a President Biden and a Senate majority, a Democratic Senate majority, talk about some ways that you can use that skill with the president, with other Democratic senators to help get things done in the divisive kind of super partisan political climate we have right now.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's something I'm passionate about, that we have to come together. And I'm a proud Democrat and stand for democratic values that I've had in my whole life. But we do want to come together and find common ground. There are clear differences that we have between the parties, but there's so much that we have in common. But we have to have the willingness to come together to pass policies that bring folks together. It's what I've done since day one. I built relationships, as you mentioned, from the freshman class of 12 Republicans and me, winning this seat in Michigan, even though Republicans, as you recall, swept the election. The governor, AG, Secretary of State, picked up seats in the State House and Senate. But I was really pleased to have the strong support of Oakland Dems and folks across the state. But I take that to heart, and I've done that throughout my career. I've been in the minority. I'm in the minority. I'm a freshman in the minority, so I need to work across the aisle. I've been ranked as one of the most bipartisan Democratic senators in the U.S. Senate. In fact, Georgetown University, the Lugar Center there, ranks every member, both in the House and Senate, based on how bipartisan they are in getting things done. And as I mentioned, of the 47 Democratic senators, I'm ranked the third most bipartisan. And in fact, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is not a Democratic group by any stretch of the imagination, actually just awarded me their inaugural Jefferson Hamilton Award for bipartisanship,
Wow.
which is to bring folks together. And the key is when you work in a bipartisan way, especially when you're in the minority, you get things done. The Center for Effective Lawmaking, which is a center out of the University of Virginia and Vanderbilt University, they also rank us all based on how effective we are in getting things done, passing bills, moving it through, and the significance. And in the last Congress, which was the last rating, of the 48 Democratic senators, I was ranked the fourth most effective. And this is in my first term, when seniority matters. And now in this Congress right now that we're in, I'm very pleased to say that in this Congress, I have written and passed more bills through the United States Senate than any other senator, either Democratic or Republican. So here I am, a freshman senator in the minority party, and I've written and passed more bills than any Democrat or Republican. And in fact, since Trump has been president, I've had more bills signed into law than any Democratic senator, even though I'm a freshman.
I think it's a very Michigan sort of thing. Like we really do believe in showing up and putting in a day's work and work hard, go home, talk to your family. So I want to ask, this is maybe a little bit more of a political question, but I wanted to ask you, what do you think the most important state in this year's election is, and why is it Michigan?
Well, it's just because we are a battleground state, as we saw in 2016, how close the election was. Our electoral votes are critically important. And when you look at what happened in 2016, a close election, but it was decided by just a few votes in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So once again, our three states are the center of that. Joe Biden needs to win here. It's going to be critical to get to the magic number that you have to get to. But what makes Michigan even more critical is the fact that if you think of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, only Michigan has a U.S. Senate race too. So, and we talked about how important the majority in the U.S. Senate is, and we have a real shot. It's very real shot to take the majority in the Senate. So all the Democrats watching, that's exciting. We can actually do this, but it is a narrow path. And if we don't hold my seat here in Michigan, it just gets a whole lot tougher. So basically, Michigan is the center of national senatorial politics and national presidential politics, which means we have a lot of pressure on us as Democrats. We have to make sure we're getting our voters out to the whole country, the entire country. And I talk to people all around the country that come to me in Washington, and they always say, Gary, what's going on in Michigan? What's going on? It's just so important. And I'm confident we're putting in the work. We know what to get done, and I'm confident after Election Day, people around the country, Democrats, are going to jump up and holler with excitement because they're going to see that Michigan is indeed a blue state. We've elected a Democratic president. We have a Democratic majority in the U.S. Senate and have held our majority in the House. So it all comes down to us. And I say that we also have obviously great candidates for the House. We have two that we were able to win, both Alyssa Slotkin and Haley Stevens, two new members that represent parts of Oakland County. And that shows you how important Oakland County is. Here we have also these two incredibly important congressional seats that we have to hold in our county. And we know when we win big in Oakland County, it's really tough for a Republican to win statewide. It's so again, a lot of pressure on us, but the one thing I know, we're up to it. We're ready to do it.
So I'm going to ask, this is going to be a me question. This is probably our last one. I know we're coming up on a hard time limit here, but I have 3 kids in public schools. My oldest has special needs. And it's hard to look at what's going on with public schools right now, where some kids are being taught virtually, some kids are going back in person. So tell me about some of the work that you've been doing to try and help our public schools navigate this crisis. What's going on there?
Well, you're absolutely right. The demands on public schools are intense right now. And to the men and women who are teachers and support staff, the work that they're doing is truly essential. It's really hard. They're under tremendous pressure and strain. And the way the system is now too with online learning, I know it's putting tremendous strain on parents who have to, in addition to their day jobs and working also have to be there much more involved in the everyday teaching and support of their students. It's an incredibly stressful time. Part of it, we do make sure the resources are there so that education can be provided safely. We were able to provide some of those resources in the CARES Act that we passed earlier in the crisis. We need to do a whole lot more, which is why it's unconscionable that President Trump doesn't want to do any more negotiations to help our school districts, why Mitch McConnell doesn't want to provide any more help for our school districts, local governments, and municipalities. They've never been leaning into that very crucial aid, but we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep pushing for it. The other thing I'll mention is that one thing that some of the lessons learned that we do know that we have to expand the opportunities for folks to use online instruction as well. Unfortunately, far too many students don't have the connectivity necessary to do online. They don't have the devices to do online. We need to plug that gap. And I would say that it proves once again how we have to make sure that our public schools have the resources they need to get through this crisis. But understand these are going to be long-term challenges. They're not going to go away when the pandemic goes away. Hopefully that'll be soon, but we know we have to lean in, provide resources. And I work regularly on particularly federal programs to help our local districts, which are primarily financed in the state level. But things like reading recovery programs, something I think is essential, that we make sure that every child, by the time they're in the 4th grade, can read at grade level. Because we know if they don't, it's very difficult for them for their future, for their whole life. That's federal money that helps our local districts provide those services. Other programs like Head Start for preschool, critically important. And now more than ever, we need to make sure that our youngest students have the resources they need. That's why I worked aggressively, for example, to make sure Flint received more Head Start money after the catastrophic crisis there. And I'm going to continue to work to make sure our districts have those additional resources necessary to enrich students in the district.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody from out of state who's canvassing Oakland County. And one of the questions he asked me was, still at this point, he's asking me if Flint has clean water yet. And I was kind of saying, well, it's complicated. It's a multifaceted problem. There's a lot of things going on there. It's not really something that we can say right now, oh, yes, check that off. It's been solved. But I know you have to go soon. Tell me a little bit, I guess this is something I want to get you a chance to talk to some of the Oakland County people. Talk a little bit about what you think your biggest successes of the past 6 years have been and your top priorities moving into a new term.
Well, I'll tell you one that I think was just critical. There are a number of things. Obviously, I've passed a lot of legislation, but one that really hit me in a real personal way was dealing with veterans and veterans that were suffering from PTSD and who were not necessarily diagnosed with that PTSD and were released. And some of them were basically kicked out of the military because of behaviors associated with PTSD that was not diagnosed. And just give you a story. It came to my attention from Grand Rapids. There was a veteran who was homeless on the streets of Grand Rapids. He's a Marine. He served in Afghanistan. He served with honor there and had accommodations. But when he came home, things weren't so great for him. And he started having the classic symptoms of PTSD, depression, and how do you deal with depression? Then he started self-medicating and drinking, and eventually had some drugs that led to him being basically kicked out of the Marine Corps. And he was not evaluated, though, for the issues that he was going through. He's on the streets of Grand Rapids now. Something is really wrong with him. He knows it. So he goes to the VA. He goes to the VA, who are very skilled in dealing with PTSD problems. They evaluated him. They said, you're suffering from PTSD. That's what's going on with you. And they said, but unfortunately, we can't help you because you have a bad paper discharge out of the Marine Corps. We can't help you. Well, that is unconscionable. We have a duty to step up to the men and women who have served us with honor and may suffer from the invisible wounds of war. I went to work. I pulled together a coalition of veterans groups all across the country that supported this effort. And we were able to pass the law that now allows him and others to go back to a board if they have credible medical evidence and get that discharge paper changed so that they can get into the VA to get help. We know that we could be talking about tens of thousands of folks in that situation. Since that has been passed, over 1,500 have already received help. We still have a long ways to go. And so I've been spending time making sure veterans who may be in that situation and suffering, or people who have loved ones that they know are suffering, understand that they can get help. And it's those kinds of things that I know help people in a very significant time of need, are the things that I look back on and say, that's what motivated me in the beginning to get into public service, and what keeps me going even during these incredibly tough times.
Yeah. And let me ask you one more thing as we're moving very, very quickly towards the election. Take a second to talk directly to the Democrats of Oakland County. Tell them, what do they need to know about voting this election? What's your message directly to the Oakland County Dems?
Well, I say, first off, we all have to really roll up our sleeves and work. And clearly we have to vote and get our friends and co-workers and neighbors voting. But as we know, as Democrats, we know that elections is not and politics is not a spectator sport. As important as it is to vote, we need to all go and put in that extra effort. We have to be volunteering. I would encourage every Democrat to be part of the One campaign that right now are making calls. We're trying to identify Democrats all across Oakland County and across the state. Make sure they get an absentee ballot. Make sure we answer any questions as to how to fill out that ballot or about individual candidates, and make sure then they mail it in or drop it off at a drop box, and we'll track it to make sure it gets into the clerk's office. But we really have to do that. We know when people turn out in this state, we know when people turn out in Oakland County, we win. We all remember the nightmare of waking up in 2016 and seeing that Hillary Clinton lost Michigan by a little over 10,000 votes. Basically, she lost by 2 votes a precinct, 2 votes a precinct. So every precinct delegate here in Oakland County, everybody, please get out and make sure we're getting those extra 2 votes or more in every single county. We can make the difference. None of us want to wake up after election and think that we could have just done a little bit more. So please take shifts. I know they have shifts of an hour or 2 or more. The more you can do, the better. But even if you only have an hour or 2 to give every week or 2, we only have 4 weeks left. We all can do that extra effort. We all care deeply about this country. We're patriots. We want to make sure that the values that this country was built on continue to go forward. But that's going to take extra effort from all of us, and we can do it. And here in Oakland County, once again, we're the center of so much that's happening, not just in our state or around our country. Let's go out and do it.
Yep. Well, Senator, I appreciate so much your time with us today. This has been incredibly special. I really do enjoy these conversations. I think it's one of the best things about my position is being able to have the opportunity to get to know our elected officials personally. I think every elected leader that I've ever met is incredible, and I'm happy to include you in that group as well. I'm also going to say I have some memorabilia right here. We're trying to keep a nice little collection. So if you ever need to find a new home for that Michigan sign over your shoulder, I think it's like right over here, probably.
Yeah. Do you know what this Michigan sign is?
Yeah, that's from the convention for the roll call vote.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very proud to do that. So it was a great honor.
It was a wonderful moment. And I really thought, like, Belle Isle is such a beautiful location and such a great space, such a great thing that not a lot of people, not enough people really know about and have an opportunity to value. So thank you very much. I'm going to pitch the website a little bit, but if you want to stick around and give some final words, please, everybody, if you enjoy the work that we're doing in Oakland County, please go to ocdp.org. There you can sign up for a mailing list where you'll get updates about future video chats that we'll have with elected officials. You can please click on our big red donate button and help us out, help us give us the funds that we need to continue operating. And if you're looking for a Biden-Harris sign, as pretty much everybody in the whole world is, there's a link there where you can go to click on that, and we'll deliver a sign out to your house as quickly as we can. So Senator Peters, thank you again so much for being with us tonight. And thank you for everything that you've done for the Oakland County Dems over the past couple of, let's say, years.
That's right. Yeah, quite a few years, Vaughn.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on with you. Thank you for your leadership. I see you have some Peter signs there too. We'll get those out as well and get more of them for you.
We are getting Peter signs out to as many people as we possibly can. I think it's in the thousands.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's great. That's great. Well,
I'm
thank you,
very proud.
Vaughn. Thanks to everybody watching. Let's go out. Let's win. Thank you. Everybody stay safe, but let's get out there and do that every little extra we can do. And let's have a great election night and a great celebration. But we got to do the work beforehand. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Senator. And again, thanks to all of you for watching. We really do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I know that we're in really, really tight time right now. This is crunch time, as they say. We got 4 weeks to go to the election. Please do go to our website, sign up for our mailing list. If you can afford to donate, we appreciate that. If not, hey, now is the time where your hours can be more valuable than your dollars. Signing up to do an hour of phone banking or an hour of lit dropping. I know the one campaign is beginning to actually do in-person door knocking. So the opportunities are there. It's not a time right now where we need you guys to be focused only on whether or not you can give us a dollar or two. This is the time where we can really take advantage of your time. And this is a way that you can really help us out in Oakland County here. Every single level of the ballot is crucial, from president to senator to county executive, state reps. There are a number of state rep races that are crucial in Oakland County. We need your help to win all of them. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We'll have this video up on our YouTube channel shortly. And please stay safe, but get out and vote. Make your friends vote. Make your family vote. Get everybody out there to vote. We have got to win. Thanks very much. Have a great evening.